Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you were joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated, and if you join me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Welcome back. I know it's been a long time. You know, life happens. But also, improvement happens, because what we figure out as we continue to do things is you're either improving or you're getting worse, right? There's this funny thing about exposure, and you see it a lot in the prep ranks. You see it a lot in media, social media. Exposure. Well, we have to look at ourselves when it comes to exposure. We have to think about what exposure really means. I think a lot of times when we think about exposure, we simply think about being seen. Okay, well, how are they going to know you exist if you're not seen? But the truth of the matter is that sometimes it's better if you're not seen. Sometimes it's better if nobody sees you until you are legitimately ready to be seen. I mean, at the end of the day, if someone sees you and you're not good, was it worth it to be seen? Exposure is all about being seen at the right time, not just being seen for the sake of being seen. I try to talk to players about this all the time. The summertime, especially in football. Well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't say it. The summertime for almost every sport. Exposure, right? Hey, I'm a football player. I'm going to play these 7-on-7s. I'm going to go to these exposure camps because I want to be seen. But what are you putting out there to be seen? Like, what is someone looking at when they look at you and they go, yeah, that person, that young man, that young woman should be seen? If you are a basketball player on an AAU team that's going to go to an exposure camp, that's going to go to an exposure tournament, places where all of the elites are going to be, places where all of the coaches are going to be, are you exposed? Are you being seen? Excuse me? Are you being seen or are you being exposed? Are you being seen or are you being exposed? I'll continue as I use the handy dandy tool. Exposed, not covered or hidden, visible, in a vulnerable position or situation, not sheltered or protected. I read those words, I read that definition because in many cases, people forget that there's a vulnerability that comes with being exposed. I'm jumping all around, but I want to touch all the bases when it comes to exposure in the media. What we do. Hey, you know what? I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to put it out for everyone to see. Well, guess what? Your voice is now exposed. It's vulnerable. Your ideas are exposed. They're vulnerable. What does that mean? That means they're susceptible to people's interpretation. They're susceptible to people's ideology, to people's thought processes. How do they think and feel about you and your voice? How do they think and feel about you and your face? When I first started doing Talk Spicy, I did it as a class assignment for my students. I said, hey, if I'm going to make you create a podcast, I'll create a podcast as well. And through that, I said, well, this is fun. And you know what started happening? When I started putting that out to the world began to respond. Not everything was nice. In fact, a lot of stuff was not nice. A lot of the things that were said were negative. Who gives a damn what you say? Oh, just another dude from the hood. Like, what? Dude from the hood? I don't speak anything like I'm from the hood. And I'm from the hood. In fact, sidebar, when I was a kid, people used to make fun of me because I did not sound like I was from the hood. So, for that to be considered a diss, right? For that to be considered a diss, I was called a racist. Oh, he's trying to race bait. He's trying to, make excuses. No. I'm just telling you how I see it. My perspective. Me alone. Right? But when you put that out there for the world, you expose it to the criticism. Exposure is not simply being seen. Exposure is what happens when people see and hear you and they respond. Or in the case of a lot of sports, they don't respond. In the case of a lot of sports, they don't give you the feedback that you thought you deserved. Kick it back on sports, right? Because that's what we are. Whether you're in the media covering sports or whether you're a person playing sports, when you put things out there, when you expose it, people make judgments. If I'm a journalist, and I consider myself to be a journalist, if you guys don't know my background, I consider myself to be a journalist. If I never show any journalistic work as a journalist, if the only thing I ever show is the clout chasey stuff, if the only thing I ever show is the look at me Louie stuff, if the only thing I ever show is like the frills that come with being in sports and entertainment, how many people are going to legitimately respect me as a journalist? See, we have to remember that our perception is a lot of times our reality. Our perception shapes our reality. And so if I want to be perceived as a journalist, I sure as hell better be putting things out there for people to see that is journalistic. If I'm a journalist and all you ever see is pictures of me looking fly by cars, am I a journalist? If I'm a journalist and all you ever see is me taking pictures with athletes, but you don't see any of the work, because I don't post that, I only post the fly stuff, am I a journalist? What happens when we put things out for exposure is we get energy back to us, and then we play victim. Then we play victim. Then we go, oh, you don't respect me as a journalist. Well, what have we seen from you as a journalist? You don't respect my knowledge on the sport. What have we seen from you that shows us your knowledge of the sport? We are our own worst enemies in that case. In athletics, as athletes, it's the same thing. Why go to an exposure camp when you're not that good? Number one, why waste your money? Right? And parents, you can believe in your kid and make sure that you're paying attention to whether or not it is worth it for your kid to go to these exposure camps. There is absolutely nothing wrong with telling your kid, hey, I don't think you're ready for that yet. And then provide some other alternatives for the kid to get better. Instead of going to an exposure camp, a camp that's built to be able to show your highest level of ability, a camp that is there to show what you can do at the highest level. If you're not at the highest level, you're not being seen, you're being exposed. Oh, he's not good. Let me check him off the box. And so now when people bring up your name to a coach who saw you at an exposure camp and saw you perform poorly, they just go, yeah, I saw him, coach. Now the coach has to resell you. No, he's done a lot of improvement. He's getting better. He works really hard. He's a great kid. I'm going to tell you the truth. These college coaches are out here lying to you. They're lying. When they say, oh, when you tell me I have a kid, the first thing I ask is, what's his grades like? Yeah, that's the first thing they ask. But they don't really care what those grades are like. Not like you would think they care about those grades. You know how I know? Because there's a bunch of kids who are really good high school football players with really great grades, and coaches don't touch them. They don't touch them. They don't even return phone calls. They don't even entertain walk-on offers. Kids with 3.7s and 3.8s who were really, really good high school football players that cannot get a phone call return from a coach. Why is that? How is that? If they care about grades, it's because they only care about grades and they only care about how good your kid is when they feel that your kid can play at their level. I shouldn't even say they're lying to you. I should tell you that they're omitting part of the truth. They're leaving something out. Because yes, they care about whether or not your kids have grades. But why do they care? Do they care because they want to see your kid graduate? Or do they care because they want to see your kid eligible? Right? Hey, I want to see the grades. I want to know that that kid has grades. Why? Because I don't want to worry about whether or not my starting left tackle is going to be ineligible at the end of the semester. That's why. Because I want to make sure that my starting cornerback is going to be out there in a bowl game. That's why. Because I want to make sure that I keep my job. I want to make sure that I have my best players eligible so that I can flip this job into a better one. I'm not hating on any of that. That is the game. Right? I tell people all the time that coaching, you can call coaching a calling all you want. But at the end of the day, it's still a business. And it's still a career. And people should be paid. They should be paid for their expertise. So that coach isn't necessarily lying to you. I probably was a little strong. He's omitting the truth. I think it's a lie because I don't like omissions of the truth. So when you go to an exposure camp, in truth, that exposure camp should only be for the elite. but there's no money in the elite. There's no money in catering events to the elite. There's money in catering events for people to seem as if they're elite. So these exposure camps are there to expose you. It's not to find out who's the best of the best. They already know who the best of the best is. Some of these exposure camps, before you show up there, they already have the guys who are like the marquee guys that are coming to the camp. I remember years ago when I was working the Nike football camps, Derrick Henry came through. Yes, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry came through. There are thousands upon thousands of kids working out at this combine. Thousands upon thousands. Derrick Henry got fast-tracked through all the events. He didn't have to wait in that line for hours and hours and hours. He walked in, he got ushered, he did his testing, he was out. Why? Because they knew he was an elite. They just wanted him to get numbers so that they could hand him the ticket to the training camp. Excuse me, it was a Nike Combine. They wanted to hand him a ticket to the training camp, to the elite level camp. I remember watching Fred Taylor's son, Kelvin Taylor, working with him in the running backs at the Nike training camps. I remember he did really well. He did really well. But there was another back who was head and shoulders the best back at that camp. Right? Drills fluid. One-on-ones killing people. Fast. At everything. Guess who got the running back MVP? Kelvin Taylor. Why? Because he had the name that was already there. I didn't vote for him. I have no clue who in our group voted for him. But he got it because he had the name. And I just banked the information. And I told that other kid, hey, you're going to be fine, man. You're a dog. But I don't know if he was fine. Because I was just going off talent. I was just going off of what I saw and thought to myself, oh snap, he's really good, so he's going to be fine. But the truth is that if you go to an exposure camp and you are not legitimately exposed, what do? Who sees you? If you go to an exposure camp and you do everything you're supposed to do, you run fast, you jump high, you impress coaches, you win your one-on-ones, right? But you don't meet the measurables for the position, you have just been exposed. Hey, he's a really good athlete, but he doesn't fit the profile of the position that we're trying to fill. That exposure camp exposed your height. It exposed that you were a 5'10", 245-pound offensive lineman, not a 6'3", 285-pound offensive lineman. It does not matter how good you performed. You have exposed yourself. Oh, you thought you were going to go to that camp? You thought you were going to go to that combine? You thought you were going to go to that exposure opportunity as a 6 foot small forward with athleticism and no jumper, but you get buckets and you were going to impress these college basketball coaches? No. These are the same college basketball coaches who are still out there giving scholarships to 6'10" and 6'11" dudes who average 5 and 6 points a game in high school, who average 10 and 11 points a game in high school. In the city of Savannah, the best basketball player that I have seen come through here in the 3 years that I have been here, the best dude was Amandre Bowles. He was the best basketball player in Savannah over these last 3 years that I have been here, and there have been some great basketball players here. Amandre Bowles is the best basketball player, but he's not a 6'3", 6'4" point guard, combo guard. So he's not going to get the same opportunities that a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" combo guard is going to get. So everybody else that's not a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" combo guard with a jump shot, a dunk on you, handles. When you go off to all of these exposure tournaments, the only thing you're exposing is the fact that you don't meet the criteria of what they believe a Division I basketball player is. And so now look at all of the talent that has come after Amandre Bowles. None of you are going to go D1, not at 6 foot and 6'1" and 6'2" and 5'11" and 6'4", but with no jumper and a limited handle, or 6'3", but not quick and no jumper. Like, no. You're going to go to Division II schools. You've been exposed. They've seen you on the... Oh, yeah, you know what he does? He gets good. He gets buckets. Yeah, he can make some shots. He can put the ball in the cup. They clearly don't care about that stuff anymore. They clearly don't care. Because we watched them take person after person after person after person who are just tall and athletic. I don't mean me tall, I mean basketball tall. 6'8", 6'9", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". Those are the guys that they're taking and trying to develop into the basketball player that you are already at 5'11", at 6'1", at 6'2". I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you what the world is. And that's what you're exposing. So when you get exposed in that way, go find something else to do. Because the best part of exposure is showing that you're not beholden to one thing to make your life. Right? If you're writing, start a podcast. If you've got a podcast, start writing. If you're in front of the camera, get behind the camera. Learn different things. Make your value more than just one thing, and that is how you expose yourself in a positive manner. That's how they see you. I hope that when people see me, they see all the dynamics of me, not just one. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, but I'm not just a coach. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, but I'm not just a coach. I'm a teacher. I'm a writer. I'm a personality. Right? I'm an entity. I'm a business, all within myself. And I am that, so that when you look at me, you cannot put me in a box. At one point in time, I felt like people looked at me as the X's and O's guy. Oh, well, he just understands how to break down film. That's it. No. I can tell stories. I can tell stories. I can enlighten you. I can throw an expose out there. I can do everything across the board when it comes to writing, when it comes to speaking. There are big plans. I have big plans. I have big plans. I have big goals. I don't have dreams. I have goals. I don't have dreams. I have goals. I'm going to do it. It's going to be a great fall. This summer, we're back. If you look around, I took inventory. I was looking at what I did and said, I need to improve. Right? Because in the world that we're in, on this side of sports, on the non-playing side of the sport, I can get 6'5". I don't have to stay 5'11". I can get 6'5". I can be 6'5". And it is my goal to be 6'5". But on the playing side of it, as a basketball player, when I was growing up, there was nothing I was going to be able to do to get to 6'5". I still contend to this day. I don't care who agrees with me. If I am 2 to 3 inches taller, I am not only playing Division I basketball, but I am making a living as a basketball player. If I was 6'5", 6'6", instead of 6'3", 6'3" and some change, if I'm a 6'5", 6'6", with a good enough handle to break a press, slasher, jump out the gym, a decent little mid-range, I'm playing major Division I basketball, and I've got a chance to make money as a basketball player. No one will ever convince me of anything else. And you don't have to, right? Because I was exposed. You remember, I'm going to tell you my exposed moment. I went to an elite basketball camp. I won't name the camp, but it was an elite basketball camp. The reason I was there, right? The reason I was at the elite basketball camp was because I'm good. But the reason I was there was more because I played with some other guys who had those measurables. So I was seen. So I go out to the camp and they put all of us on teams, right? I get onto a team, I'm on a 5, and I look around, and I, who plays power forward for my high school team, am the shortest person there. Everybody there is 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'10". I'm supposed to be the point guard. This was my exposed moment. They brought me there to be the point guard. They wanted to see if I could thrive in that position. Here's the problem. I don't have point guard handles. I have good enough as an alternate ball handler handles. I have Draymond Green handles. Well, I don't have anything now, but I had Draymond Green type of handles. Grab a rebound, push it up. The one thing I did have was this. I saw the game. I understood the game. Right? So that made it possible for me to survive in this camp. But they could see I didn't have the handles. When guys pressured me, especially when guys started pressuring me like full court, it was Magic Johnson, turn the shoulder, dribble, crossover, behind, dribble. That's not what they wanted. They wanted someone who could break people down off the dribble and go and make plays. They wanted to see if I could do that. I could not. Okay. Do we have time? Do we have time as a college to get him from where he is right now to where we need him to be before it's time for him to say goodbye? No. It would have taken me multiple years of simply just working on my handle, getting better, in order for me to be to the level of a legitimate collegiate starting point guard. I I would have been a long point guard. I've been a 6'3", 6'4" point guard. Like at that time, that would have been a good size point guard. Plus I was tough. Plus I had athleticism. So now I don't have an elite level jump shot. I don't even have a good jump shot. Not something from deep. And I don't have an elite level handle. I don't have a good handle. I have a decent handle. I'm exposed. I'm exposed. It's not going to happen for me in basketball. Just that quick. We have to understand how we fit. And we have to understand when it's time to put the light on us and when it's time for us to play the background. And if we don't, yeah, that exposure is going to expose us. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. We do this thing a few times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It will be starting at 7 o'clock. I'll get it down. Trust me, just stay with me. Like, subscribe, agree, disagree, whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe. If you're joining me on Twitter, if you're watching this on Twitter, if you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and follow. Everything helps. Till next time, peace.